Please, be careful.
Shut up. I am tired of your voice, tired of your praying, tired of your useless advice.
Imagine you stay single your whole life for your son. You don't sleep until he comes home every night. And one day he calls you annoying just because of your care, and he beats you. Every night, a wealthy mother stayed awake in her grand mansion, listening for the sound of her son's car pulling into the driveway. But one violent night at 1 a.m., something terrible happened. Her billionaire son came home drunk and did something unforgivable to her. And the next morning at breakfast, she did something no one expected. Who were the people she called that morning? And what was her shocking plan? Sit back and find out as we delve into this powerful story. In the heart of Lagos, inside a beautiful mansion surrounded by high gates and security cameras, a woman named Cassandra lived alone with her son. The mansion was big, with marble floors, expensive furniture, and large windows that let in the morning sun. But despite all the beauty, Cassandra's heart was heavy. Cassandra was 65 years old. Her hair was grey, tied neatly in a bun. Her hands were gentle but strong, the kind of hands that had worked hard all her life. She had raised 3 children alone after her husband died many years ago. Her eldest daughter, Helen, was married and lived in Abuja with her family. Her younger son, James, worked abroad and called her once a week. But her middle child, her firstborn son, David, still lived with her. David was 42 years old, tall and broad-shouldered. He owned several businesses and properties across Lagos. On paper, he was a billionaire. People respected him in public. They called him Ogre David and bowed when he passed. But at home, David was different. At home, he was a nightmare. Years ago, David had been kind. He laughed easily. He helped people. He respected his mother and treated her like a queen. Cassandra remembered those days clearly. She remembered when David graduated from university and started his first business. She remembered how he used to bring her flowers and say, "Mama, everything I am is because of you." But slowly, things changed. First, it was drinking at business meetings. "Mama, it is just business," he would say. Then it was drinking alone at night. Then gambling, small bets at first, then bigger ones, then dangerous ones. David lost millions in secret. He borrowed money from dangerous people. He lied to his family. And when the debts piled up and his businesses started failing, he became angry, not at himself, at everyone else, especially at his mother. Cassandra watched her son change with a breaking heart. Every night she prayed, "God, please bring back my son. Please remove this evil from him." She fasted. She tried talking to him gently. "David, my son, please tell me what is wrong. Let me help you." But David only shouted back, "Stay out of my business, woman. You don't understand anything." Still, Cassandra did not give up. She cooked his favorite meals every day. She washed his clothes even though they had housekeepers. She left notes of encouragement on his bedroom door. Every morning, before he woke up, she would whisper outside his door, "I love you, my son." God loves you, but David's heart had grown cold. He saw her love as weakness. He saw her patience as foolishness. And every night, he came home later, drunker, angrier. Cassandra began to fear her own son. She started locking her bedroom door at night. She stopped wearing her jewelry because David had started demanding money from her. Twice, he had taken money from her bank account without asking. When she confronted him gently, he exploded. "It is my father's money," he shouted. "You have no right to question me." Cassandra's friends noticed the change. They saw the sadness in her eyes. "Sister Cassandra, are you okay?" they would ask at church. Cassandra would force a smile. "I am fine, just praying for my son." But inside, she was dying slowly. Every day, she lived in fear. Every night, she wondered if tonight would be the night David finally went too far. One night, Cassandra sat in the living room with her Bible open on her lap. The big clock on the wall showed 1:47 a.m. Her eyes were tired, but she refused to sleep. She had learned the hard way that David's late-night returns were dangerous. She needed to be awake in case something happened. She whispered softly, looking at the ceiling, "Lord, please bring my son home safely. Please protect him from evil. Protect me too, Father." At exactly 2 a.m., she heard it. The roar of an engine, the screech of tires against the driveway, the violent slam of a car door. Cassandra's heart began to beat faster. She closed her Bible slowly and stood up. Her legs felt weak, but she forced herself to walk toward the entrance hall. She waited, her hands clasped together tightly. The front door burst open with a loud crash. David stumbled inside, reeking of alcohol and cigarettes. His expensive coat was unbuttoned and stained. His shoes dragged across the marble floor. His eyes were bloodshot and wild. He kicked the door shut behind him so hard that the frame cracked. The sound echoed through the entire house. Cassandra took a small step forward. "David, welcome home," she said gently, trying to keep her voice calm. David looked at her with disgust. His face twisted into an ugly expression. "What are you still doing awake?" he slurred, his words heavy and broken. "I was waiting for you, my son," Cassandra said softly, her heart pounding. "Are you hungry? Let me prepare something for you." David laughed. It was a bitter, ugly sound that made Cassandra's skin crawl. "Hungry? You think food will fix anything?" He staggered forward, swaying slightly. "Come, let me help you upstairs," Cassandra said, reaching out her hand slowly. "You need to rest." "I don't need anything from you," David shouted suddenly, his voice exploding through the quiet house. He moved toward the dining area, his steps unsteady. On the way, he knocked over a small side table. A beautiful ceramic vase, the one Cassandra's late husband had bought her on their anniversary, crashed to the floor. It shattered into dozens of pieces, scattering across the marble like broken stars. Cassandra gasped softly, her hand flying to her mouth. "David, please, be careful." "Shut up," David roared, spinning around to face her. His eyes were filled with rage. "I am tired of your voice, tired of your praying, tired of your useless advice." Cassandra took a step back, fear creeping into her chest like cold water. "David, please, calm down. You are not yourself right now." "I am myself," David shouted, moving closer to her. "This is who I am. You just refuse to see it." He stormed past her into the kitchen. Cassandra followed slowly, her hands trembling. The kitchen was where she had been praying earlier. Her Bible still lay open on the small wooden stool near the window. The lamp above it cast a soft glow over the pages. David saw the Bible, and something inside him snapped. His face twisted with even more anger. He grabbed the Bible and threw it across the room. It hit the wall and fell to the floor. "Always praying," he shouted, his voice filling the kitchen. "Always acting holy. Where is your God now, huh? Where is he when I am losing everything? When my businesses are failing? When people are coming to collect their money?" Cassandra's eyes filled with tears. She bent down slowly to pick up her Bible. "David, my son, God has not left you. You have left him. Please let us talk. Let me help you." "Help me!" David's voice was venomous. He moved toward her quickly. "You want to help me? You?" Before Cassandra could respond, David grabbed her by both shoulders. His fingers dug into her flesh painfully. He shook her violently, her head snapping back and forth. "David, you are hurting me," Cassandra cried out, her voice breaking. But David was beyond listening. His face was inches from hers, his breath hot and reeking of alcohol. "You are nothing," he screamed. "You hear me? Nothing. You could not save my father, you could not save this family, and you cannot save me." Tears streamed down Cassandra's face. "David, I love you. Please, stop. You are my son." "I am not your son," David shouted. "I am a failure, a disappointment, and it is all because of you." He shoved her hard. Cassandra stumbled backward, her arms flailing as she tried to catch her balance. Her hips slammed into the sharp corner of the wooden dining table. Pain exploded through her side, white and burning. She cried out and tried to steady herself, gripping the edge of the table, but David moved forward again. His face was twisted with rage and something else. Hatred, disgust, things a son should never feel for his mother. He raised his hand high, and then he brought it down hard across her face. The slap echoed through the kitchen like a clap of thunder. Cassandra's head snapped to the side, her cheek burned, her ear rang with a high-pitched sound. She tasted blood in her mouth. For a moment, everything went silent. Cassandra stood frozen, her hand slowly rising to touch her face. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth, warm and metallic. David stood there, breathing hard, staring at his hand as if he didn't recognize it. His chest heaved up and down. His eyes were still wild, but for one brief second, something flickered in them. Confusion. Maybe even regret. But it disappeared as quickly as it came. David lowered his hand, turned away from his mother, and staggered toward the staircase without saying a single word. He climbed the stairs slowly, holding the railing tightly, his footsteps heavy and uneven. Cassandra heard his bedroom door slam shut. The sound vibrated through the walls. And then silence, complete, crushing silence. Cassandra stood in the kitchen, her hand still pressed against her bleeding mouth. Her body shook, her vision blurred with tears. She felt dizzy, the pain in her side and face overwhelming. Slowly, her legs gave out and she sank to the floor, her back against the wooden cabinet. She sat there in the darkness, listening to the sound of her own breathing. The house felt cold, empty, and hostile. This was supposed to be her home, her sanctuary. But it had become a prison. Cassandra did not know how long she sat there. Minutes, maybe an hour. Time felt strange, like it had stopped moving. Finally, she pulled herself up, using the cabinet door. Her legs felt weak and unsteady. Every movement sent sharp pains through her side. She walked slowly to the small bathroom near the kitchen and turned on the light. The woman staring back at her in the mirror looked like a stranger. Her left cheek was swollen and red. Her lip was split, blood drying at the corner. A dark bruise was already forming along her jaw. Her eyes were red and wet, filled with tears that would not stop falling. Cassandra touched her face gently, wincing at the pain. She looked at herself for a long time, and then slowly something inside her changed. Her tears stopped, her breathing steadied. Her eyes, once filled with sadness, became clear and sharp. She whispered to her reflection, her voice low and firm, "No more. This will never happen again." Cassandra washed her face carefully, dabbing at the blood with a clean cloth. Then she walked back into the kitchen. She did not go to her bedroom, she did not lie down, she did not hide. Instead, she turned on the light fully. She walked to the cupboard and began taking things out one by one. Flour, sugar, eggs, butter, cocoa powder, vanilla extract, baking powder. She placed everything on the counter slowly and deliberately. Then she turned on the oven and tied her apron around her waist. Cassandra began to bake. Her hands trembled as she cracked the eggs into the bowl. Her side ached with every movement. Her swollen face made it hard to see the measurements clearly. But she did not stop. She mixed the ingredients carefully, beating the batter until it was smooth and rich. She poured it into a round pan and placed it in the oven. The sweet smell of chocolate began to fill the kitchen, warm and familiar. While the cake baked, Cassandra moved to the dining room. She cleaned the table carefully, wiping away every speck of dust. She brought out her best plates, the ones she only used for special occasions. She set out forks, sieves, and napkins. She arranged everything perfectly, as if preparing for an important guest. Then she returned to the kitchen, took the cake out of the oven and let it cool on the counter. The chocolate cake was perfect. Rich, dark, and beautiful. It was David's favorite. The same cake she used to make for him when he was a little boy. The same cake he used to beg her for on his birthdays. Cassandra stared at the cake for a long moment. Then she sat down at the dining table and folded her hands in her lap. She did not sleep. She did not rest. She waited. As the first light of dawn began to creep through the windows, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Cassandra picked up her phone. Her hands were steady now. Her mind was clear. Her heart was determined. She dialed the first number. It rang twice before a sleepy voice answered. "Mama, is everything okay? It is so early." "Helen," Cassandra said quietly, "I need you to come home, now." There was a pause. Then Helen's voice became sharp with worry. "Mama, what happened? Are you hurt? Is it David?" "Just come," Cassandra said. "Please, I need you here." "I am leaving now," Helen said immediately, her voice filled with urgency. "I will be there in 2 hours. Mama, please be safe." Cassandra hung up and dialed the second number. This time, an elderly man's voice answered, groggy but alert. "Cassandra, is that you? It is not even 6 a.m. yet." "Yes, Mr. Thomas," Cassandra said. "I am sorry to call so early, but I need your help." Mr. Thomas was her neighbor from 2 houses down. He was 75 years old, a retired judge, and one of the most respected men in their community. Everyone knew him. Everyone listened to him. His word carried weight. "What is wrong, my dear?" he asked, his voice now filled with concern. "Can you come to my house this morning?" Cassandra asked. "Around 8 a.m. I need you to witness something very important." "Witness what?" Mr. Thomas asked carefully. Cassandra hesitated for just a moment, then said softly, "The truth. I need you to witness the truth." There was a long silence on the other end. Then Mr. Thomas said, his voice serious and firm, "I will be there, Cassandra. You can count on me." Cassandra hung up and took a deep breath. Her heart was pounding, but her hands remained steady. She dialed the third and final number. A young man's voice answered immediately, alert and professional. "Officer Daniel speaking. How may I help you?" "Daniel," Cassandra said, "this is Mrs. Cassandra, David's mother." Daniel's tone softened immediately. "Mrs. Cassandra, good morning, Ma. Is everything all right? You sound different." Daniel was 38 years old. He had grown up in the same neighborhood as David. They were childhood friends. They used to play football together in the street, study together for exams, and dream together about their futures. But while David became a billionaire, Daniel chose to serve his country as a police officer. He had watched David's downfall with deep sadness and had tried many times to reach out and help him. "Daniel," Cassandra said quietly but firmly, "I need you to come to my house this morning, around 8 a.m., and please bring backup officers with you." Daniel's voice became serious immediately. "Mrs. Cassandra, what happened? Did David do something? Are you safe right now?" "I am safe," Cassandra said, "but I need you here. I will explain everything when you arrive." "I will be there," Daniel said firmly. "I promise you, Mrs. Cassandra, I will be there." Cassandra hung up and placed her phone gently on the table. She looked at the chocolate cake sitting in the center of the dining table, surrounded by perfectly arranged plates and cutlery. She looked at her reflection in the glass cabinet door, her bruised and swollen face staring back at her. Then she stood up slowly and walked upstairs to her bedroom. She opened her wardrobe and chose a simple but dignified dress. It was navy blue, modest and clean. She combed her grey hair neatly, pulling it back into her usual bun. She looked at herself in her bedroom mirror, and then she made a decision. She did not cover her bruises. She did not put on makeup to hide the swelling. She did not try to conceal the split lip or the dark marks on her jaw. She left her face exactly as it was. Evidence, proof, truth. By 7:30 a.m., the sun was fully up. The mansion was bathed in golden morning light. Everything looked peaceful from the outside. But inside, Cassandra sat at the dining table, her hands folded in her lap, her bruised face calm, waiting. At 7:55 a.m., she heard it. Heavy, slow footsteps coming from upstairs. David was awake. Cassandra did not move. She sat perfectly still, her eyes fixed on the staircase. David came down the stairs slowly, rubbing his head with one hand. He was wearing the same clothes as the previous night. His face looked tired and puffy. His eyes were bloodshot. But there was no guilt in his expression. No shame, no regret, no apology. He walked into the dining room and stopped suddenly when he saw the table, the chocolate cake, the plates, the perfect setup. He looked at his mother sitting quietly at the table, her bruised face turned toward him. For one brief second, something flickered in David's eyes. Recognition, shame, but it disappeared quickly. His mouth curved into a smirk. "So you finally learned your lesson," he said, his voice dripping with arrogance and satisfaction. "You know your place now. You understand who is in charge." Cassandra did not respond. She simply watched him, her face calm and unreadable. David walked to the head of the table and sat down heavily, as if he owned not just the chair, but the entire world. He reached out and pulled the cake toward himself. He cut a large, greedy slice and shoved it into his mouth, chewing loudly. "This is how it should be," he said between bites, crumbs falling onto the table. "You serve me, you respect me, you stop interfering in my life with your stupid prayers and advice." Cassandra's face remained completely calm. "Would you like some tea?" she asked softly, her voice neutral. David nodded, still chewing. "Yes. Make it hot and strong." Cassandra stood up slowly, moving carefully because of the pain in her side. She walked into the kitchen and began preparing the tea. As the water boiled, she heard a car pull up outside the gates. Then another. Then another. David heard it too. He stopped eating and frowned, looking toward the window. "Who is that? I did not invite anyone." Cassandra returned with the tea and placed it gently in front of him. "We have visitors." David's frown deepened. "Visitors? What are you talking about? I told you never to invite people without asking me first." The doorbell rang, a long, clear sound that echoed through the house. Cassandra walked to the front door and opened it slowly. Standing outside were 3 people. First, Helen, Cassandra's daughter. Her face was filled with worry and fear. When she saw her mother's face, she gasped loudly, her hand flying to her mouth. "Mama!" Tears immediately filled her eyes. Second, Mr. Thomas, the retired judge. He stepped inside with quiet but unmistakable authority. His tall frame, silver hair, and serious eyes filled the entrance with power. He looked at Cassandra's face and his jaw tightened. Third, Officer Daniel, in full uniform, with 2 other officers standing behind him. Daniel's face was hard as stone when he saw Cassandra's bruises. David's smile vanished instantly, his face turned pale. He stood up quickly, his chair scraping loudly and violently against the floor. "What? What is going on here?" he stammered, his eyes darting between the visitors. "Why are police here? Why is everyone here?" Mr. Thomas walked calmly to the head of the dining table and sat down in the chair that David had just abandoned. His presence filled the room with an unspoken, undeniable power. He did not speak yet. He simply looked at David with cold, steady eyes. Helen rushed to her mother's side, her hands trembling as she gently touched Cassandra's swollen cheek. "Mama, who did this to you? Was it David? Did he hurt you?" Cassandra looked at her daughter, then at David. She did not speak yet. She simply stood with quiet dignity. Officer Daniel stepped forward, his face like stone. His voice was firm and professional. "David, sit down." David's eyes went wide. "Daniel, what are you doing? We are friends. We grew up together. Why are you here in uniform? What is happening?" "Sit down," Daniel repeated, his voice harder this time. David sat slowly, his hands gripping the edge of the table so tightly his knuckles turned white. His face was pale. His breath came in short, panicked gasps. Mr. Thomas leaned back in his chair and looked at David with the cold, measuring gaze of a man who had seen thousands of criminals in his courtroom. He let the silence stretch out, heavy and suffocating. Finally, he spoke. His voice was quiet, but carried the weight of absolute authority. "David, do you know why we are all here?" David's mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked like a trapped animal. "Let me tell you," Mr. Thomas continued, "we are here because your mother, a woman who has loved you, raised you, sacrificed everything for you, called us. She called us because last night you came into this house drunk. You destroyed her belongings. You grabbed her, you shook her violently, you threw her into the furniture, and you slapped her across the face." David's face turned red. Sweat began to form on his forehead. That is not. I mean, It was not like that." "It was not like what?" Daniel interrupted, stepping closer. His voice was hard and angry. "Not like assault, not like abuse, not like attacking your own mother?" David looked desperately at his mother. "Mama, tell them it was a mistake. Tell them I did not mean it. Tell them I was just drunk. I was not in my right mind." Cassandra finally spoke. Her voice was soft, but it cut through the room like a sharp, clean blade. "It was not a mistake." David froze, his mouth hung open. Cassandra stood up slowly, wincing slightly from the pain in her side. Her bruised face was calm, strong, and filled with quiet power. "It was not a mistake, David, because this is not the first time." Helen covered her mouth with both hands, tears streaming down her face. Cassandra continued, her voice steady and clear. "For 2 years you have been drinking, gambling, losing money, coming home angry, shouting at me. breaking things in this house, threatening me, taking money from my account without asking, and I stayed silent. I prayed, I fasted, I hoped you would change. David opened his mouth to speak, but Cassandra raised her hand gently but firmly. Last night, she said, you crossed a line that can never be uncrossed. You put your hands on me. You looked me in the eyes, your own mother, and you hurt me. You made me bleed, and then you went to bed as if nothing happened, as if I was nothing. David's eyes filled with tears. His voice cracked. Mama, I was drunk. I did not know what I was doing. I was not thinking clearly. You knew, Cassandra said quietly, her voice filled with pain but also with strength. You knew exactly what you were doing, and you chose to do it anyway. Officer Daniel pulled out a small black notebook from his pocket. His voice became official and cold. Mrs. Cassandra, before we proceed, I need to ask you officially, for the record, do you want to press charges against your son? The room fell completely silent. Everyone held their breath. Helen looked at her mother with wide, tearful eyes. Mr. Thomas watched carefully. David's face was frozen in shock and fear. Cassandra looked at David for a long, painful moment. She saw the little boy he used to be, the young man who used to bring her flowers, the son who used to make her laugh, but she also saw the monster he had become, the man who had hurt her, the man who had made her afraid in her own home. Finally, she nodded slowly. Yes, I want to press charges. David's face crumbled completely. His mouth opened in a silent scream. Mama, no, please, no, I am your son. You cannot do this to me, please. And I am your mother, Cassandra said, her voice breaking slightly but remaining firm. But I cannot let you destroy yourself. Or me. I cannot let you kill me. Daniel flipped open his notebook. David, in addition to last night's assault, we have records showing that you withdrew large sums of money from your mother's bank account without her permission over the past 6 months. We have reports from witnesses about you causing public disturbances. We have a complaint from a loan officer that you threatened him with violence last week when he asked for repayment. David's hands shook violently on the table. I was going to pay it all back. I just needed more time. I was working on a deal. Everything was going to be fine. I just needed one more chance. You needed help, Cassandra interrupted, but you refused it. Every time I tried to talk to you, you shouted at me. Every time I suggested counseling, you laughed. Every time I begged you to stop drinking and gambling, you told me to mind my own business. You refused to listen. You refused to stop. You refused to get help. And now, my son, I must do what I should have done a long time ago. Mr. Thomas stood up slowly, his tall frame casting a long shadow across the table. David, your mother has shown you more mercy than you deserve. She could have let you continue on this path until you completely destroyed yourself. She could have abandoned you the way you have abandoned your responsibilities and your dignity, but instead, she is choosing to save you. Even now, even after everything you have done, she is trying to save you. David looked at his mother, pure panic filling his bloodshot eyes. Tears streamed down his face. His voice came out in broken sobs. Mama, please, I am begging you, just one more chance. I will change. I promise you, I will stop drinking. I will stop gambling. I will never ever touch you again. I swear on my father's grave. Please, Mama, please. Cassandra's eyes filled with tears, but her voice remained steady and firm. You have said that before, David, many, many times. But every promise was broken the next day. Every oath was forgotten the moment you picked up another drink. Officer Daniel took out a pair of handcuffs from his belt. The metal clinked softly in the silent room. David, stand up. David stood slowly, his whole body shaking. His legs looked like they might give out at any moment. Mama, please, do not let them do this. I am your son, your firstborn. Please. Cassandra walked closer to him, moving slowly and carefully. She stopped right in front of him. She reached out and touched his cheek gently with her bruised hand. I love you, David, she whispered, tears rolling down her face. I have always loved you, from the moment I held you as a baby until this very moment. But love does not mean I let you kill me. Love does not mean I stand here and watch you destroy yourself piece by piece. Love does not mean I allow you to turn into a monster." David broke down completely. He fell to his knees right there in the dining room, his whole body shaking with violent sobs. "Mama, I am sorry. I am so sorry. Please forgive me. Please." Cassandra knelt down slowly beside him, gasping slightly from the pain in her bruised sire. She held his face in both her hands. "I forgive you, my son. I forgive you, but forgiveness does not erase consequences. Forgiveness does not mean I pretend last night did not happen. Forgiveness does not mean everything goes back to the way it was." Daniel stepped forward and gently pulled David to his feet. With practiced, professional movements, he turned David around and placed the handcuffs on his wrists behind his back. The clicking sound of the cuffs locking echoed through the house. Helen hugged her mother tightly, both of them crying together, holding each other up. As the officers began to lead David toward the door, he looked back one last time. His face was wet with tears. His eyes were red and desperate. "Mama." Cassandra stood tall, despite the pain in her body and the bruises on her face. Her voice was filled with both pain and incredible strength. "I will be here, David, when you are ready to become the man I raised you to be. When you are ready to face the truth and get real help. I will be here, but I will never again let you hurt me." The door closed behind them. The sound of cars starting filled the air outside, and then silence. The house fell completely quiet. Cassandra sank slowly into a chair, her body finally giving in to exhaustion. Every muscle ached, every breath hurt. But her heart, for the first time in 2 years, felt lighter. Helen sat beside her, holding her hand tightly. "Mama, you did the right thing. You saved his life and yours." Mr. Thomas placed a gentle hand on Cassandra's shoulder. "Cassandra, you are one of the bravest women I have ever known. What you did today took more courage than anything I have seen in all my years." Cassandra nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face, but her expression peaceful. "I know, but it still hurts. It hurts so much." "It will hurt for a while," Mr. Thomas said kindly. "Healing always hurts before it helps, but you made the right choice. You chose life, for both of you." The days that followed were the hardest Cassandra had ever experienced. The mansion felt emptier than ever before. Every room reminded her of David, his childhood laughter, his teenage dreams, his adult destruction. Helen refused to leave her mother's side for the first 2 weeks. She moved into one of the guest rooms and became Cassandra's constant companion and protector. Together, they made changes to the house. They installed new, stronger locks on all the doors and windows. They set up security cameras at every entrance. Helen hired a private security guard to watch the gates 24 hours a day. "You will never be unsafe again, Mama," Helen said firmly, her voice filled with determination. "Never again." Cassandra also began seeing a counselor, Dr. Sarah, a kind woman who specialized in helping people recover from domestic violence and trauma. At first, Cassandra found it difficult to talk about what had happened. Shame kept her silent, but slowly, with Dr. Sarah's gentle guidance, she began to open up. "You are not alone," Dr. Sarah told her during one session, "and you are not the first mother to face this pain, but you are incredibly brave for choosing to stop it." Meanwhile, across the city in a jail cell, David sat on a hard bench, staring at the grey concrete walls. At first, he was angry. He cursed everyone: his mother, the police, Mr. Thomas, the system, life itself. "How could she do this to me?" he muttered to himself over and over. Her own son, how could she? But slowly, as the days passed and the alcohol left his system completely, something began to change. His mind began to clear. The fog of addiction and rage began to lift. He remembered things he had tried to forget. His father's funeral, when he promised his mother he would take care of the family. His first business success, when she cried with joy. The day he first came home drunk and the hurt in her eyes. He remembered last night. Every terrible detail, the violence, the words, the look on her face when he slapped her. David covered his face with his hands and, for the first time in years, felt genuine shame. One morning, a counselor visited him. His name was Mr. Paul, a former gambling addict who had rebuilt his life and now helped others do the same. "David," Mr. Paul said, sitting across from him in the small visiting room, "your mother did not send you here to punish you. She sent you here to save you." David looked up, his eyes red and hollow. "I hurt her?" "Yes," Mr. Paul said simply. "You did, but you can still heal, if you choose to." Over the next several weeks, David entered a mandatory rehabilitation program. He attended therapy sessions 3 times a week. He joined support groups for gambling addicts and alcoholics. He listened to other people's stories and finally began to face his own. It was painful. It was humiliating. It was the hardest thing he had ever done. But slowly, very slowly, David began to understand the depth of what he had become. He wrote letters. Dozens of them, most of them he threw away, ashamed of his own words. But finally, after a month, he wrote one letter that felt true. One letter that came from somewhere deep inside him that was still human. He sent it to his mother. Cassandra was sitting on her balcony one afternoon when Helen brought her the mail. "Mama, this is from David." Cassandra's hands trembled as she took the envelope. For a long moment, she just held it, staring at her son's handwriting. Then slowly, she opened it. Inside was a single page, written carefully in David's familiar script. "Mama, I do not know if you will read this. I do not know if I deserve for you to read it. But I need to say these things, even if you never respond. I am sorry. Those words feel too small for what I did. But they are all I have. I am sorry for every cruel word, every raised hand, every moment I made you afraid in your own home. I am sorry for the man I became. I was not your son that night. I was a stranger, a monster wearing your son's face. And I hate him. I hate what I did to you. I hate that I made you bleed. I hate that I made you choose between loving me and protecting yourself. I do not expect you to forgive me. I do not expect you to trust me again. I do not expect anything from you. But I want you to know that by refusing to stay silent, by calling for help, by pressing charges, you saved my life. I am in treatment now. I am facing my addiction to alcohol and gambling. I am learning about the person I became and how to become someone better. It will take a long time, maybe years, maybe forever. But I will do it, not because I want something from you, but because you deserve a son who honors you, even if only from a distance. Thank you for loving me enough to stop me. Thank you for being braver than I ever was. Your son, David." Cassandra folded the letter slowly, carefully, as tears rolled down her cheeks. Helen, sitting beside her, asked gently, "What will you do, Mama?" Cassandra looked out at the garden, at the flowers blooming in the afternoon sun. Her face was calm. "I will pray for him. I will hope for him. But I will also protect myself. I will not go back to living in fear. Love does not mean returning to danger." Months passed slowly. David completed his rehabilitation program with genuine commitment. He was released under strict supervision. He found a small job as a warehouse clerk, nothing like his old billionaire lifestyle, but honest work that kept him busy and grounded. He attended counseling every week without fail. He went to support group meetings every evening. He stayed completely sober. And he wrote to his mother once a month, never asking for anything, just updating her on his progress. One afternoon, after 6 months had passed, David asked if he could meet his mother. Cassandra thought about it for 3 days before agreeing. But she set conditions. The meeting would be in a public cafe, Helen would be present, and it would be short. They met on a sunny Saturday afternoon. David arrived 15 minutes early, his hands shaking as he sat at a corner table. When Cassandra walked in with Helen, he stood immediately. "Mama." Cassandra looked at him carefully. He looked different, thinner. His expensive clothes were gone, replaced by simple jeans and a clean shirt. His face looked tired, but his eyes were clear, truly clear, for the first time in years. They sat down slowly. For a long time, nobody spoke. The cafe buzzed with other people's conversations, but their table was silent. Finally, David spoke quietly. "Mama, I do not expect you to let me back into your life. I do not expect you to trust me, but I want you to know I am trying. Every single day, I am trying to be better." Cassandra nodded slowly. "I can see that." "I destroyed everything," David whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "My businesses, my reputation, my relationship with you. But I do not want to rebuild the money or the status. I just want to rebuild who I am as a person." Cassandra reached across the table and touched his hand briefly. "Just for a moment." "Then keep going, David. One day at a time." David's eyes filled with tears. "Mama, can you ever forgive me for what I did to you?" Cassandra looked at him for a long, searching moment. She saw his pain, his genuine remorse, his effort to change. But she also remembered the terror of that night. The blood, the bruises, the fear. "I already have forgiven you, David," she said softly. "But forgiveness does not mean everything goes back to how it was. You will not live in my house again. You will not have access to my bank accounts. You will not have the right to come and go as you please. You will earn back trust slowly, step by step, or not at all. That is up to you and God." David nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I understand, Mama. I understand completely." Cassandra squeezed his hand gently before letting go. "But you are still my son, and I will still pray for you every single day. I will hope for your healing. I will celebrate your victories, but from a safe distance." They sat together for a while longer, talking quietly. When it was time to leave, Cassandra stood up. David stood quickly too. For a moment, they looked at each other. Then Cassandra opened her arms slightly. David stepped forward and hugged his mother carefully, gently, as if she might break. It was not the embrace of before, when he was a boy and she was his whole world. But it was something. It was a beginning. Cassandra returned home that evening with Helen. Her heart felt different, lighter but also stronger. She looked around her mansion, which was no longer a place of fear, but had truly become a sanctuary of peace. She had survived. She had made the hardest choice of her life. She had chosen herself without abandoning her son. She had set boundaries that protected her while still leaving room for hope. And in doing so, she had saved both their lives. Helen continued to visit often, sometimes staying for entire weekends. James called more frequently from abroad, checking on his mother and offering support. Cassandra began attending church again with joy instead of desperation. She volunteered at a women's shelter, helping other mothers who were facing abuse. She laughed with her friends. She planted new flowers in her garden. Her bruises faded completely. Her body healed. Her spirit grew stronger. David continued his journey with quiet determination. He worked his simple job. He attended every meeting. He stayed sober. He saved his money carefully and eventually paid back some of the debts he owed. He sent his mother letters regularly, always respectful, never demanding. Once a month, they met for a brief coffee. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they just sat together in silence. Cassandra never returned to the mansion while he was there. She never gave him a key. She never relaxed her boundaries. But she also never stopped being his mother. She never stopped hoping. She never stopped praying that one day the son she raised would fully return. One evening, 2 years after that terrible night, Cassandra sat on her balcony watching the sunset. The sky was painted in brilliant shades of orange, pink, and purple. The city lights began to twinkle in the distance. A warm breeze touched her face. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you, God. Thank you for giving me the courage to stand. Thank you for giving me the strength to love without losing myself. Thank you for saving both of us." And in that quiet moment, Cassandra understood something profound. She had not lost her son by calling the police that morning. She had saved him. She had refused to let him destroy both their lives. She had loved him enough to let consequences teach him what her words and prayers could not. She had learned that real love is not silent in the face of harm. That forgiveness does not mean forgetting or pretending. That being a mother does not mean sacrificing her own life on the altar of her child's choices. Cassandra had found something many people search for their whole lives. She had found the courage to save herself. And in doing so, she had created space for real healing, real change, and real redemption. The mansion stood tall and beautiful in the evening light. Inside, Cassandra was finally, truly at peace. This story reminds us of something powerful and true. Love is not silent when it sees destruction. Forgiveness does not erase consequences. And sometimes the greatest act of love is saying firmly, clearly, with all your heart, no more. Cassandra's courage did not destroy her family. It rebuilt it on a foundation of truth, boundaries, and genuine love. She proved that a mother can love her child fiercely while also refusing to be destroyed by him. She showed that saving yourself is not selfishness, it is wisdom. My dear viewers, what do you think about this powerful story? Did Cassandra make the right choice? How would you have handled this situation? Please share your thoughts in the comment section. I would love to read from you. And guess what? The day after tomorrow, I will upload another very touching story. So make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification bell so you will be notified immediately the story drops. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching.